Well, you must have done all right.
Well, right now you're sharing your screen instead of yourself.
Oh.
Okay.
Time to get my face on there.
Well, you must have done all right.
Well, right now you're sharing your screen instead of yourself.
Oh. Okay. Get my time to get my face on there.
Well, you must have done all right.
Right now you're sharing your screen instead of yourself.
Who's sharing the screen?
Steve is.
Oh,
At the top, it'll tell you you're viewing Steve's screen.
oh, there it goes.
Now you're back.
All right.
Okay,
Okay.
we are live now. Y'all hear
Who's sharing the screen?
y'all hearing the feedback?
Yeah.
Tried to mute it. Test, test, test. Okay.
You got it now?
Yeah.
Well, except for that. Oh, okay.
There we go.
All right. So do you want me to start?
Yes, let me get this at the beginning. Okay. Does everybody see the? Okay, we are ready.
Okay. This is the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board for the City of San Angelo, Texas. It is now 3:35 p.m. Monday, June 15th, 2020. This meeting is being held virtually due to COVID-19. No public comments were submitted in writing by noon today, June 15th. Okay.
Oh,
Does the board have any items for consideration that are not on the agenda? And do we have any additional comments from our board? Nope. Okay. All right. Consent agenda. The consideration of approving January 23rd, 2020 meeting minutes. Do I have a motion?
Madam Chairman, I move we approve accept and approve the minutes.
I noticed that the slide is correct, but the agenda is not correct. It should be the February 2020 minutes.
Oh,
Move the minutes with the correction.
so what was the day?
February 20, that was our last meeting.
Okay. February 20. I know I pulled them up and looked at them. Okay. So I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion from Mr. Dursky, and who was the second from?
Heidi.
Heidi. All right. Let me see, what do I have to do? So, second discussion. All right, everyone in favor of approving the minutes, say aye. Aye.
Right.
You may need to do a hand vote. I think that's what council's been doing.
Is that how, okay. Stick your hand up and say yes. Okay, looks like I got everybody. So the minutes passed. All right. What piece of paper am I on now? Okay. So we're up for the presentation and review of the draft of Parks and Recreation master plan.
Let me load up that presentation.
Okay, and hopefully we could be done by 5. I had wanted to go to Carl Ray, but I don't know if that's going to happen with me, but
Got too many things running on my computer right now. Slowing it down.
Carl, if you need me to share my screen, I can.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Did the city purchase that for you in 1996?
I just need a better connection.
Just a moment. Let me get all the way back to the beginning.
There we go.
There you go.
Yeah, no, it's great. Carl, would you like to just make some opening comments on behalf of your department and everybody?
Well, we're nearing the end of this process. We started several months ago, updating our Parks and Recreation Master Plan with the Active Living Plan. It's been a great relationship working with Dunaway Associates. I don't have anything bad to say about them. They've been great to work with, and they've been very responsive. If we have any questions or anything needed, they've been very quick to respond. So they're here today to show us the presentation of the draft of the plan. This is what council is going to see tomorrow as well, and they have it in their packet. So whatever comment, we do need comment from the board today, whatever comment we get from the board today, we'll share with city council tomorrow. And Philip, are you going to begin the presentation?
Okay. I'm coming through clear. Good. I'm assuming yes. Well, good afternoon again. Thank you for having us. It's myself, Philip Neely, Jennifer Meldy. She's on the keyboard, as they would say. And Hare is probably somewhere in the list. So the three of us, we got to be with your group back in October when we were there and kind of kicking off. It's great to see the project move forward, even in these unique times. I've done a system-wide plan, new update, considering the demand on public parks and open spaces and various resources has just kind of gone off the chart during the COVID time. And there's all kinds of new thoughts and new interest in how park system diversification, different age groups. So you hit a really unique window of time to have done this, and hopefully it'll really serve you well for the next several years. We did the master plan in 2 major phases. The first phase is about really understanding what your system has, the overall programs that are offered, as well as beginning to tap into the public. Phase 2 is then beginning to create priorities, an action plan, how can that be implemented, and then putting all that in the document. And I'll move fairly swiftly, and then certainly Q&A, be happy to try to get any feedback.
You there, Philip?
I'm here. I can't see the next slide.
Oh, the parks inventory is up. Do we need to move to the next one?
Yes, sorry.
Okay.
Inventory, of course, you have a big, diverse system. And, we were able to do fresh with a real credit, Carl, to you and your team, your guys, your staff, because getting everything up to date sometimes is a real cumbersome process. But we've got everything documented, some newer photography. City helped us with a lot of the photography. So in terms of looking at the park system, the total resources, we broke it down into the 3 areas, the Concho River Community Area and Lake Nasworthy. You can think about those different zones and needs. Next slide. Well, what are y'all looking at?
The maps are up.
Okay, so there we go. Maybe just be processing. Yeah, I'm not sure. The 3 areas that I just referenced, each of these were inventoried with key maps to understand the types of resources and the types of proposed needs in the future. Next. I think it's just processing slow here. There we go. So the inventory, again, is very tedious. It's great information for Carl and to try to keep this up to date. Sometimes this can be simplified and posted annually for citizens to be able to get access to, and they understand the full range of resources throughout the city. Programs, you have well over 50 different programs throughout the community. And so again, we're not trying to get where you can read all this in detail, but a very widespread range of activities for different ages. So we have all that documented, again, good data from Carl and the different staff in different areas. Then, of course, a big step to doing a system-wide plan is fresh feedback from the community. We had those visioning sessions when we came out in October, and then some roundtable conversations that led to helping design a survey. The survey was 2 pages, probably one of the shortest ones we've ever been involved with, but it was really targeted to the right categories: facility needs, what we call activity needs, and then certain things regarding indoor recreation. Part of looking at your system and even just how to continue to sustain it, add new features. One of the things we would recommend is a parkland dedication ordinance, which are used widely throughout the state. Really important in terms of new development areas as well as infill areas. That could be a great ordinance to help you obtain new parkland. The sidewalk ordinance is a great tool as well for providing sidewalks and connectivity between different developments and different land uses. And then some of the issues you will face is filling in certain park resources where service gets too big. I mean, too spread out. Things are not as accessible to the citizens. So those will be important going forward. Just some quick touch on the survey respondents. We had a little less than 1,000 respondents. Everybody in the city was, had access to it online, but you can see strong participation from the active families with children. Really good numbers there. That's important to get. A lot of the kids, young people today, they will be the heavy enthusiasts and users in the years to come, active and passive. Again, we ask what activities. It's fun to activities drive facilities in terms of what people really demand. And the top items you see here were aquatics, nature programs, kayaking, and summer programs. So those were very strong on the survey. Now, when you really drill into the detail of amenities, or what we would call capital features within a park system, we had 31 items that we asked the citizens to tell us what would they see as the most important or the most needed in your park system. These are the top 8. I'll touch on these here in a minute. Next is the moderate and low, yellow and green. Again, it doesn't mean that these would be way out, that they couldn't happen sooner. It just, we wanted some quantifiable data from your citizens on needs, trying to understand the types of recreational needs and park needs. So these will be seen further as we build the action plan. I think mine must be processing slow. It's all right. Maybe I need to pay my bill.
This is just
implementation.
Yes.
Yeah. You can see the charts. Y'all have probably seen them in detail in the book. Again, this becomes the playbook or the roadmap to where Carl and where the city, you as city leaders, think about funding and how you could implement pieces within the park system on an annual basis. And again, this is very key to the state, Texas Parks and Wildlife, in terms of their guidelines, where you really understand how your needs were expressed by the community, and then where could those occur in the different parks? How could those be funded? So the chart deals with where those parks are and where funding sources perhaps could come from. Sometimes an item, let's just say an item number, 12 or something, can move way up because it's not as costly, or you have partnerships, or you work with other sponsors, and things could get funded in different ways. So these are the details of the action plan: high, moderate, and low. When you think about the high items, that really, again, expressed by your citizens, spray ground and splash pads was number one. Not necessarily a surprise. You're in a hot part of the United States, and these are wildly successful. They're way lower in terms of operational costs than swimming pools have traditionally been. So spray grounds and splash pads are fun, and sponsors and other agencies or other neighborhood groups can contribute to these as well. Shade on playgrounds. 20 years ago, very few playgrounds had any shade, but that's become a big deal. Is great playgrounds and shade for both the kids and those that are with the kids, parents and grandparents, families. Third, a lot of expressed desire for aquatic related improvements, and these can be big ticket items. Sometimes these would best be accomplished through a partnership, but an outdoor aquatic center would be great. Again, the citizens had it very high. Sorry, Jennifer, I'm not seeing it yet.
Okay. It's restrooms is number 4.
Okay.
And just a little note on this while Phillips is loading. The top 4 items on this were all very closely ranked together. So these were definitely the highest of the high priorities, were the top 4.
Yeah. Restroom facilities in parks bring up all kinds of opinions and struggles and issues. I'm sure Carl could nod his head a lot on this, but we've seen a trend where park restrooms can be very creatively sized and detailed. They're very durable, industrial grade. They can have a little bit of character in terms of it doesn't have to be an eyesore. It can be just a very important public service in parks. So anyway, the citizens had it ranked number 4. Number 5. Trails. I've got my copy here. Y'all are already probably seeing it. Trails typically are in the top 3 to 5 in any system I've ever seen in the state of Texas, because they have such a variety of ages and activity types on trails, and you've got some good trails, but the continued strategies on connectivity will need funded and thought about with your city dollars and potential funding or grants that you could get. Trails are so key. One of the best bangs for the buck in a park system would be trails. Number 6, again, mine's just having trouble scrolling. Playgrounds. This is uniquely in that we ask the citizens about shade. Sometimes you have a lot of playgrounds. Sometimes it's just adding shade to playgrounds right now that are just too exposed to the heat. In this one, number 6, were just new playgrounds or updated playgrounds. One of the classic elements in a park system. Number 7, nature walks and trails. Again, there's been just almost a renaissance, a movement in the country and certainly in Texas with more passive-based trails where people get out and there's interpretive learning, there's sightseeing, and there's birding activities and photography and all kinds of neat things. So nature trails are very successful. Your citizens had those. And then number 8, fishing piers and access to water. So that could be accomplished in various ways. Just something as simple as small fishing piers or, areas that somebody could launch canoes or kayaks. So that was an interesting one. Of course, you have Lake Nasworthy. So that's just, again, a quick touch point on the top 8 priorities. Again, when you go through the moderate and low, there's significant elements. Some of those could move up, and on next year or 2 years from now, 3 items from the moderate priority could be happening as a part of your capital CIP. So that'll just be a unique process year by year. We also ask about indoor. Again, the survey was short. It was not cumbersome. We ask about indoor amenities, and we have 12 items that we let them rank. Just a very important comment to make. You don't have rec centers today that could accommodate these, for the most part, these elements. You just simply don't have room. So a dream or a big item to think ahead towards is one day a new rec center to really begin to implement most of these items. That's the trend in other cities your size and smaller or bigger, is how to fund or partner to pull off a bigger rec center for these kinds of elements. It's a big strategy, obviously a big ticket item. So looking briefly at those elements, the top 4, again, I talked about aquatics. Aquatics was high on the outdoor, and aquatics was number 1, 2 on the indoor needs. So they're awesome. Most of the times these facilities are cost recovery 100%. Sometimes they actually make a little bit of positive revenue to put back into the facility. So, but the capital cost, that's the challenge, is being able to figure out the capital cost on that. Number 3 is indoor track, walking. Great resource. Again, most rec centers today have that built into the footprint of the new rec centers. And the citizens noted indoor rock climbing walls is number 4. Carl, maybe you could be the first one to climb the wall when we get that thing in one day. I'll watch you climb.
I'm there.
They're awesome. They're fun the way they get positioned in a rec center, but the citizens and families, whoever, they commented on it. It was high to them. The active living plan, it was, again, very unique for, Carl had said to Jennifer and I and Tim from the get-go, we're going to have to do, we feel it's significant to do the active living plan. It was a great item to do as a part of your overall community services, both on the public and private side, and how you come together, collaborate together. So we brought into the team Pros Consulting. They're out of Indianapolis. Several, y'all probably met them with Austin, the gentleman from their team. But they look at just how to bring all of these different parties together, these different agencies, to work towards public health, access to amenities, walkability, education programs. And so the steps with Pros, and Jennifer was there, back in the fall. November was the planning meeting with those groups coming to the table together, beginning to think about a vision, a common vision between all these groups, and then some of the guiding principles. Then as time, the next few months, as we got into the new year, there was going to be meetings around the table, and then of course COVID hit. So Pros facilitated 2 surveys, questionnaires to those stakeholders. Both of those ended up being done actually in April. But you think about it, it's pretty unique. Doing the active living plan came in a time where, as a society, we've gone through a really different experience of public health, public space, public facilities. So you have some outcomes here that will be unique now coming through the COVID time and what's ahead. It's a very, very good study to do to bring the groups together. Next slide is the vision statement. That was early on creating this vision statement, engaging the community and equitable opportunities. Those are the big things, both on the public and private side, whether it be healthcare providers, educational, recreational, etc. Trying to really integrate with engaging the different groups together for a common goal, and then giving opportunities throughout the community. Here's some of the implementation items. Promote cross-section or cross-sector partnerships. Pros is just great at partnership ideas. A collective vision, keeping a collective vision, everybody working together. The role of public policy in community health, activity, wellness, and this active living becomes a part of everybody's ultimate goal, working together. And park systems do this naturally, just in the range of things that you offer. But it's great to be able to do that with other agencies. No one agency can cover everything. YMCA's can't cover everything. Other groups cannot cover everything. So you have to work together. That led, all of this, of course, is in the bigger book, the document itself, all the steps and the findings, the outcomes, some of the detailed data that came out of the survey and the active living plan is a separate document. But so this is the draft that you've been through. Just some high spots I want to hit in summary. Your system is very diverse. Your natural resources are pretty awesome, incredible. I'm a Texas kid, been here all my whole life, but you know, the diversity of what you have is remarkable. But you have the challenge, because you're such a mature community, you have the challenge of what needs to be updated and where you need to bring in new. And that's what mature cities face, that balance. And so it's just going to have to take a lot of creative thinking to maximize your dollars. The top amenities I've already touched on, splash pads, very trendy, aquatics, big deal, no doubt, trails of all types, restrooms would deal with just basic public service, and playgrounds. Those are the really key focus points. Indoor amenities, again, should be a part of a future facility where you can maybe partnership. And then the active living plan is going to have to keep momentum and a strong community activity involvement by both private and public businesses. So those are the high spots. We look forward to council tomorrow. And with that, we'll open it up. We appreciate y'all's support all the way through.
Well, I think it
Lori?
looks pretty good.
Lori, if we could get some board input, any comments, any thoughts?
Has there been discussion? Obviously, this began before I came on this board. Is there some initial planning as far as fundraising is concerned? Is this all through city? Or I heard Philip mention, is it Philip or Patrick?
It's Philip.
Philip.
Sorry. The possibility of collaborations, have any of those been identified, et cetera?
Well, this is a plan. It kind of gives us the direction we can go. It's really up to council if we want to go any particular direction. If we do try to bite off a major ticket item, which might be an aquatic park, you know, that's definitely gonna have to take some collaboration, public-private, naming rights, sponsorship, advertising, all the above, business partnerships. So,
Ms. Brooks, I'll make a comment back on those detailed charts on the implementation plan. We have, I can't remember the exact number, it's 20, 22, something like that, funding sources. And you'll see several of those are creative ways to bring other funds in that are not your dollars. And we've tried to tag what kind of an amenity could look at other funding sources. And it's just in the detail of that. You'll see that in the book.
In essence, is that grant writing, or you're talking separate from that?
So grants would be could be one of those items.
Okay.
We're talking about something like a sponsorship or an HOA that would give money towards a playground update, or other types of programs that are available for trails. So you'll see, again, in the detail of that, you'll see those funding sources, a brief paragraph about each one, and you'll see that we tag those as possible funding sources for the different amenities as ranked.
Okay. And Carl, correct me if I'm wrong, this is separate from the sunken garden situation, correct?
yes, because it's
Park, whatever you want to call it.
the sculpture garden. I think it is loosely touched on in the plan because it talks about adding art to different parks. That is included. But yes, that's kind of on its own course. It's being designed now. And so the improvements to that would have to be the funds would have to come from different sources.
Okay.
And Howard Taylor and I met on that just last week.
Okay.
This this plan, kind of tells us what would be good to do based on public input primarily. And it talks about funding strategies, but it doesn't necessarily take any one project and say, this is what you need to do and this is how you should fund it. We kind of have to work that out on our own.
Along with that, obviously, city council has to adopt this plan, but at this point, there's no time frame, correct?
For the adoption of the plan or time frame for projects?
Both.
For the plan, we're taking it to city council tomorrow as a draft, and we intend to take it to city council July 7 for adoption.
Okay. Okay.
And I should know the answer to this, but your vision statement, does that mirror pretty much what our vision statement is now?
Which one is shown here? I'll have to double check. I think it is. They probably took it from our documents.
This
I'll double check.
vision statement, Carl, I don't know if you remember or not, but this is what the big group came up with in the first vision for.
That's the active living plan.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to hog the table, although I have lots of things that are popping in my mind. And Philip, you mentioned because of the timing and all this, where are you? You're not in San Angelo, are you?
I am not. No, I'm up in the North Texas area.
Okay. Well, obviously I live in San Angelo and I happen to live on the river, and this whole COVID thing has been rather interesting to see the river, even when we were on quarantine. Sorry, Carl. How many people were walking down there that never walked in their lives? And I say that as if I see every single person that walks. I don't, but the numbers have changed dramatically.
Right.
People picnicking, people fishing, people walking, people exercising. Is there anything else you want to elaborate on regarding the fact that you've seen changes during this whole COVID time?
Philip or Carl?
You, Philip, sorry.
Well, no doubt in my mind, the demand for free outdoor space, meaning open space, preserves. We had designed a nature park along a creek corridor in this region, and I went to it back in May, and it was just unbelievable how many people at different ages were enjoying it. And so I think, Ms. Brooks, that it's the trend. There's going to be a whole new wave of interest and use of public park systems, but particularly passive, because, a lot of the sports fields have all been shut down. Playgrounds have even been taped off, but people are enjoying trails and water edges and passive things. There's kind of been a resurgence in enjoyment of passive park systems that was very much the early 50 or 100 years in the United States. But because we've had such active sports for so long. So I think it's just going to be more demand for, like I say, free, usable, outdoor, kind of self-programmed activities.
Absolutely. I agree.
And I'll piggyback on that a little bit. So Ms. Brooks, I'm Tim Hare, I'm with Dunaway, and I'm in the Midland office.
Okay.
So I've noticed a little bit of what you're talking about, which is that in West Texas, there's a lot of seasonality to outdoor space use, right? In the spring and the fall, when it's really nice, you can see people out there all day long, generally on playgrounds, on trails, etc. But when it gets hot or when it gets cold, that declines. And at least what I've noticed through the pandemic is that that's sort of gone away. Even on hot days, you see people out just to get out of their house and get some exercise, some sun. And so it's kind of, instead of having these big peaks and valleys of use, it seems to have leveled out at a higher level of people using outdoor amenities, whether that's a street, a trail, a playground. These 105-degree days we've had over the last couple of weeks don't seem to have deterred anybody.
Right. So both of you, or any of you, please call me Heidi. I may seem old, but maybe I'm not that old. False idea. Don't laugh, Debbie. So yes, I completely agree. Whether, now I'm the lizard that doesn't care if it's 106 degrees outside, I'm still out there, but
Mhm.
cold or hot, it has just been amazing to me, the number of people who have been utilizing the river.
Yes.
Yes, and here in San Antonio, there's even been a resurgence of at the Autobahn. The Autobahn Center here has had just off the charts attendance lately. So I think it's all over the state. I think Philip was correct in what he said, that this has created statewide a unique thing where people are going back more towards that open space that's active and what's passive and can be enjoyed by many people.
Mhm.
Right?
I have a question. And Carl, don't shoot me for this, but where did golf wind up in? I mean, was golf anything that was mentioned as far as a priority?
Golf?
Yes.
No, sir.
Disc golf made the list.
Yes.
I apologize, but golf did not make the list.
Well, I just wondered because I didn't see anything about that in here or about either. And maybe I shouldn't say anything, but just, what we do with the golf facilities that we have and which ones do they need improvement or do they need to be used for something else? So I'll just,
That's simple.
Well, the only statement I'd like to make is I'm really excited that aquatics is number one. There's no way anybody can argue that aquatics is something that this city needs more of. So I'm excited about that.
Going back to golf, I think maybe because a couple of things have been happening with golf. There has been a decline in its popularity, especially with the younger generations. And I think the private sector is meeting the basic need for golf in San Angelo. And I noticed that Mesquite Ranch opened up again just recently. So there are 3 private golf courses now. So I think that is meeting it. I think that is basically meeting the demand of the public.
okay. Well, and it's an old discussion, but when you talked about open spaces, the biggest property of open space for parks we have in the city is a golf course. So right in the middle of downtown. So I was interested in just whether golf made the list or not. So.
When is that lease up, Carl?
Actually the end of this fiscal year, September.
And do we have any idea if they're going to renew that lease?
Yes, they've asked to renew it. It's an operational agreement is what it is. And we will likely take it back to council sometime this summer to renew it for 3 or 5 years.
Okay. And that they're up to date on.
Yes, they're good. They're good on all payments to us. It's actually been going fairly well lately. We have had complaints about their maintenance, but I think we've corrected those. Roger, are you here? Can you comment on how it's going?
Yes, Carl. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So, yeah, I would agree with you, Carl. I think over the last 12 months, we've seen some improvements. I think they actually got some new leadership there at the course as superintendent, head groundskeeper, whatnot. And I've seen some improvements. I think their mowing schedules are a lot more as they should be. It seems like they're treating their golf greens and doing a pretty good job. Anytime that we do hear complaints or that we see something, they usually take care of the complaints pretty quickly over the last 12 months.
Mr. Neely, this is Steve. The first thing you mentioned when you were talking about this program, planning for additional parks, is that what it was? Could you kind of cover that again? The very first statement you made.
Maybe on the summary slide, Jennifer.
Well, maybe the parkland dedication ordinance?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah. You don't have a park land dedication ordinance when developers do new development where a certain percentage of the land would be set aside for parks. You don't currently have that ordinance. Now, you're not the only city in Texas that doesn't, but by far more cities have it than don't. So parkland dedication ordinance is just a great tool to help you keep up with the demand for parkland associated with the development of new properties and new land use in your community.
Oh, can you give me a percentages of cities that do have it?
Oh, I'm just going to guess. I need Dr. Crumpton or somebody here.
I don't need exact numbers. I need an approximation.
I would say 70 or 80% of the city. I'm guessing 70, 80% of the city. When you get towns of 5,000 and less, probably not. But in terms of cities of size, 15, 20,000 and bigger, I would say 75 or 80% probably have a parkland dedication ordinance. That'd be my guess.
Carl, do we not have plenty of parks per capita?
Not really. I mean, it depends on how you measure it. We have a lot of undeveloped park land. If you we put all those wild barren acres into the mix, it looks like we do. But in terms of developed parkland, we don't. In the parkland dedication ordinance, the failure to not have that in place is the reason why we have places like the Bluffs that don't have a single public park at all. And much of the Southwest only has one single neighborhood park, and it's continuing to grow. The northern part of Lakeview has no neighborhood park. Because we didn't have the ordinance, that's why we ended up with situations like that. We have a good concentration of parks along the river and coming out from the river. But then as you start to move outside of that, we start to develop service holes.
Okay.
And then we have all that parkland around Lake Nasworthy. That's a lot of city-owned land.
Yeah, and a lot of that's undeveloped. But
right.
They rent it out, don't they?
Some of it, yes.
They lease
it. We lease it out, some of it.
Mm-hmm. So it sounds like to me that in the presentation, when you give city council tomorrow, that we should encourage the fact that there's been a larger enjoyment of outdoor spaces, particularly with our waterways and our open spaces, the needs for openness along with this COVID stuff. And it may be also good to mention this parkland dedication ordinance would help in solving a lot of that.
Yes. Yeah, I'll emphasize it. We'll bring it up strongly tomorrow. I mean, bottom line is in public city services, Parks and Rec has had a spike as compared to water and sewer and roads. They always have needs, but Parks and Rec has just kind of blown the lid off during the COVID stuff.
Yeah. People have to have something to do with their family.
Right. They need to be out, and it's good for families. It's good. There's good activities that have been recovered that come back. There's gonna be some classic park type activities that are going to come back that hadn't been around for decades.
Well, Philip, have you talked to any other cities or projects that are at, kind of at this point or even further along? Because as much as I love the parks ideas as a whole, there's the concern that like this city the budget is going to be quite decreased in the sense that we've had to close so many, all cities. So I see us expanding parks, and that's an expenditure that at this point, I can't imagine the city's going to want to deal with growing parks when I would say, can't really maintain everything that we have. Carl, correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, and keep in mind, this is a plan for the next 5 years. The last plan we had lasted 7 years. So we're not necessarily talking about this is what we need to do next year, but maybe look out 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, we need future.
To try to build towards that.
Okay.
But the great point is moving forward, as we look forward with the COVID-19 and the issues that may have, the bottom line is people and families need more parks. They need more places to go that are safe for them to go and take their families to. So to me, the priority has definitely risen for our field of parks and recreation. So
Well,
that's a great thing.
Also, they've been worried about water for the next 20 years. And so quality of life is part of that. If they're expecting an increase in population, they need an increase in parks to accommodate the growth in the population.
Mm-hmm. Good point.
Follow-up question on the splash parks. In the discussion, looks like it had a pretty good following.
Yes.
Was any locations identified? Or
We
will
would
it be just one, or will it be several, or how will that work?
There would be several. They would be shown on that detailed chart with all those dots where we list all the parks and where those amenities could occur, and then what could be some of the funding sources. So yes, there would be there's a variety of options on spray grounds throughout the city. Obviously, all of those couldn't be accomplished, but there may be in the next 2 years. You may try to have one a year. I don't know. It'd be great.
In your
wasn't
photos,
that a point that we try to do more improvements in the parks that we did have versus trying to open up brand new parks? Seems like that was
It wasn't asked that way in the survey,
okay.
But I do think because of the size and complexity of your system, you're going to spend more money reinvesting in your current park system. You may update amenities or add a spray ground into a mature park, but it's really about the next generation of investing in your park system and then creatively adding where you can. The new ordinance will help you over the next 5 or 10 years. There's no question.
Right.
Continuing this, you showed in your pictures some very large splash parks, but they come in all sizes, don't they?
That's exactly right.
And amounts. And
That's right.
do you suggest attendance counts or usage counts in the parks to for the park to qualify for any given size? How much usage it already gets to accommodate a splash park.
I think so. I think as Carl and his staff look at demand of certain parks where there's a high level of participants versus lower, that will indicate, or I think it'll inform you where would you want to put one first, and the demographics around it. You could run some GIS mapping of the ages. What are the kids? What are the ages there? And those say within a half mile or a mile. That could very much drive where you do a spray ground.
Yes, and we've got some good ideas where we think they would best fit. But we can, the charts in the plan do talk about suggested possibilities of where they could be placed, spray grounds and other improvements. It's really up to us in city council, what we want to tackle and where and when. Jennifer, could you show the priority slide? One thing I wanted to point out, I think is good. We have some things in the works already. The Lake Nazareth improvements, number 8, you see the fishing pier and the lake access. We'll have an update here in a minute on the Middle Concho boat ramp project. There's been $6 million allocated to Lake Nazareth improvements recently from the last referendum. So, we're going to make some progress there. Fishing pier is one of the first items that should be tackled out of that this coming year. And lake access with the boat ramps and boat ramp improvements and repairs. So, we're going to be able to do that here in the next few years. Playgrounds for children, we're in the works of updating renovating Brentwood Park. We hope to refurbish the playground at Unidad Park. Next would be Kids Kingdom, and then follow that with Brown and Unidad Park. So, we're going to be able to address a lot of these top items here soon. Adding shade to park playgrounds, we will need some extra funding for that. And if we want to do splash pads and aquatic center, that is going to take some extra effort. Nature trails, we have nature trails now. We have the potential for adding more here within the next 3 to 5 years, if not sooner. So I'm excited. I think that we can actually tick off a lot of these highest lists, within the next 3 to 5 years.
Great.
Carl, will there be an age limit on the splash pad?
No, sir. No, sir. You're welcome to it.
Nobody under the age of 5.
Steve and I have been talking about that. We're sure interested.
There may be a height limit, though. You may be too high for some of the elements, though.
Yeah, too high.
They're popular.
Okay, so
What about bathrooms? Do you have any guidance there as far as how many bathrooms we need? Those are expensive items, and do they need to go with splash pads or
Great questions.
how would we regulate that?
Yeah, really, and Carl knows this firsthand. The length of stay at parks is the big driving factor to where do you put a public restroom. Most neighborhood parks in the state of Texas, I would say, don't have a restroom. A neighborhood park does not have a long length of stay. Then when you move to the larger parks and places, people will be there 2 hours or 3 hours, or sports places. Obviously, you've got to have public restrooms. So that'll be on a park by park basis, with exception. Yeah, you're right. We did a city where we did 6 spray grounds in one big capital campaign, and they built the spray ground, and now they're going to add the restrooms to go with that, just because there's a high demand for those spray grounds. But that's a unique storyline right there. Restrooms generally go with length of stay at the park.
And that philosophy has been part of our reason why we've not included restrooms in some of the neighborhood parks, most of the neighborhood parks.
Right.
The exception has been the portable restrooms we've added to some of the parks. They're not always popular, but they are quite affordable.
I have about the nature trails too. Are those, how long are they? If they're, they're in your response, you had mostly young people saying we needed many of these items, middle-aged and young, but the elder, we're an older population, and how would we use those for? I think in the park over here, Meadow Creek, it's mostly the elderly who are using it to walk in the mornings and the afternoons, and I think some of the nature trails would be involved in that too. And what is the length of them? A mile or 3 miles, 5 miles? What?
The length of them could depend. I mean, that'll be up to Carl and his team. But you are correct about the trails and the nature trails. When we had public meetings, there were a lot of people that were seniors, maybe not quite seniors, that mentioned that they wanted the trails and the nature trails. And so this is reflected in this amenity, in this priority matrix of people wanting that. But the actual length of them and where they're located will be up to Carl and his team, the size of the loops and all of that.
Yeah, just the natural conditions of the site. We're seeing some park systems go back and add off. They already have kind of a primary walkway. They're adding a loop that goes back through tree areas or whatever that might be quarter mile or half mile or whatever. But it's more of a nature walk as compared to an all-weather surface. So it'll vary.
Okay, Carl, do we need any action on this? Or do I need to ask if everybody wants to send this to council? It's going to council anyways.
Yeah, no action, just input.
Okay.
Move to accept.
There we go. We can
Just
accept it.
input.
All right. So everybody with this moving ahead?
I want it to be had.
Any particular information you'd like for us, the consultants, to share with the council tomorrow about the plan?
Everything we talked about.
Yeah. Yeah, just the fact that perks are more needed now.
That's right. Did they ever happen?
Mr. Neely, do you have any understanding about what's available in funding and grants? What's out there?
Well, Steve, there's we listed some of them in that implementation section
Okay.
that I've alluded to a couple of times. It'll be interesting to see what happens with our state, with Texas Parks and Wildlife, because they have various grant programs. So I don't know, Steve, there's going to be a change in sales tax revenue and I think the programs will be less funded, but I'm assuming with the demand on park systems, they're going to try to have the legislature keep them funded as well as they can, because those grants have been great through the years. So they've got trail grants and they've got outdoor programs and indoor programs and small community grants and, boat ramps and all kinds of things. So, but I don't know. Nobody knows yet what funding levels will be in the coming months in the next couple of years.
Okay.
Question on grants. Do we have a citywide grant writers, or do we have Parks and Recs grant writers? How does that work, Carl?
There's not a designated person for grant writing. We kind of share that need. We've gotten a lot of help from Sandra Villarreal. She's the health department director.
Part-time.
For instance, she helped write the grant to the Health Foundation for the Unidad Park refurbishment project. And we should hear from that. We should hear this month on the results of that request.
So who encourages them to write what grants? And
Well, in Sandra's case, we just ask her if she can help us, and usually she can. If not, we just share the burden with whatever appropriate staff that can provide the information needed.
Okay.
We generally have good success. I'll give an update on the Twin Buttes Trail project at the end of the meeting, and I wrote that. It was a TPWD trail grant, and I wrote that one all by myself. It's fairly simple. It just takes time.
Okay, so this presentation and the adoption of it will be one step further of us going to getting grants, because this, from what I understand, having this will help us get more grants.
Correct.
It'll help us be competitive, and we have to have the plan on file with TPWD with the priorities identified. And when we apply for those grants, we tie it back together with those public needs with a specific project. For instance, if we do an aquatics facility, I mean, that's high up on the rankings. So we get more points allocated to that grant application. If we do a big TPWD grant application for either a park or a recreation center project, we'll probably have to ask for some help on that grant application. They're a little more involved. We did that for the river project back in 2013 and got that grant, and we hired someone to help us with that one.
Okay. All right. Are we ready?
Might be a good idea to reach out to the community. There might be someone in the community that's retired, that's educated in grant writing, that's just sitting out there not knowing that we need them. You know what I mean? Might be a good idea to somehow reach out to the community to see if there's any people that are
there are lots of grant writers in this city.
Yeah, well, we need help. I think it'd be great to have somebody that we could reach out to help with those, because just think of, there's so much money out there to be had. We just have to ask for it and apply. Anyway, we'll put that on our need list for sure.
Lori, any other comments?
I don't see anybody. Looks like it's a go.
Okay. And we'll talk about when our next board meeting is. I'm assuming we'll have another meeting on Zoom before we go back to council on July 7th. So we'll have another opportunity to give more input and give an official recommendation.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you all. Thank y'all for your support.
Having us.
Thank y'all for a good job on the presentation. Thank you.
All
Very
right.
nice.
Have a good afternoon.
Okay.
Yep, thank you for having us.
Okay.
Talk tomorrow, Carl.
Yeah, see you tomorrow, Phil.
All
And
right.
Good luck tomorrow.
yeah, we need it.
Thank you.
We're going.
Carl, can I
Yes.
request another agenda item? I tried to speak up earlier and I guess my mute was on.
Yes, we'll have the opportunity at the end.
Carl put it on. He told us he was going to.
We'll talk about future agenda items here towards the end.
Okay. I thought we were there.
All right, we're
Okay.
signing off.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Okay.
So let me share my screen again.
All right.
So this is our last slide, which is talk about future agenda items and next board meetings. We have this one to give some quick updates. If you're ready.
Go ahead, Carl.
Okay, so quickly, we had our last meeting on February 20. We were scheduled to have another meeting towards the end of March. Of course, everything kind of changed in the middle of March. So we haven't met since then. And y'all try to keep you updated. And I think y'all seen a lot of the social media postings and news broadcasts about different changes. And we went basically from shutting everything down. All the offices were closed. Basically the parks were closed except for walking on trails. And I think there was even a short time when even all the parks were closed for anything. We shut down programs, no sports activities. So we're now just back in the process of opening back up. Our offices are open. Basically, the parks are back open again. Everything's open. Pavilions are open. We're renting pavilions again. We're allowing for special events on a little bit limited basis, but it's really dependent on the size of the event. With the current state order, there can be outdoor gatherings, events, up to 500 people without any kind of special considerations other than just the standard health protocol that we're following now. But if it's more than 500, they have to develop a plan to mitigate any issues with the virus, and those plans have to be reviewed and approved by the local health authority. There have been a couple of events, I'll point out, that those have been achieved in terms of getting permission from the local health authority. The boat races are back on. They were off. They were supposed to happen at the end of June. They've been moved to July 11 and 12. Their plan has been approved, so that will move forward. We have an event going to council tomorrow that's also at Lake Nasworthy. It's been approved by the local health authority, but not by council yet. That's for a small festival at the newly leased property at Spring Creek Marina. And we've had some smaller events, several different smaller events, like the Juneteenth is back on for this Saturday with the parade and an event at Martin Luther King Park. That's less than 500 people though. So we're slowly getting back into gear. Roger, Brent, do y'all have any comments on the COVID-19 situation?
No, Carl, as you stated, right now, everything is pretty much open. About the only thing that we have, and I wouldn't even call it closed, are the pavilions or what has to do with the pavilions. We basically have every other picnic table caution taped off for off limits, just to keep them from getting too close and too many people underneath them. And I have not heard anything on when that's going to change. Carl, have you?
No, we can talk about it after this. Should be soon.
Okay.
Brent?
Same thing. I mean, just different limitations on different things. From the summer camps to, tonight the complex is opening back up for the leagues that we have out there and the gyms as well. Today's the first day that we're going to have volleyball and basketball and softball going on at the complex, but of course volleyball and basketball be in the rec centers. But the sanitation guidelines and everything like that, we're following those, of course, and spending a lot of time and have extra staff in everywhere we are opening to sanitize everything. But yeah, basically the same as the parks, just a little bit different scenarios with their tables and pavilions and stuff like that. But we're getting through it and making it happen. So.
Okay, and you've got another bullet point here in just a second.
Yes.
That's pretty much it for that first bullet point, Lori, unless there's any questions or comments.
I have a question. What about you mentioned the boat race is moving. What about Wake to Desert? It seemed like it's right around the same time frame when you're doing that. Is that still on, or?
We just got that application last week. I think they were waiting to see what the situation is. Last I heard, they haven't settled on a date because the date that they wanted to move it to was the same date as the small festival at Spring Creek. So I think Ina's on here. Ina, have you heard any update on the date for that?
I don't think Ina has a microphone, Carl.
Okay. Well, I'll have to check with her. They did turn in their application last week, and they were trying to figure out what date to have it on.
Okay.
Maybe in August. But I can send y'all an update when I find out by email.
And when did you say the Spring Creek Marina Small Festival was?
It's the 24th and 25th. That's the date that the wakeboard were looking at having their event. But
of June?
July.
July. Okay.
Yeah. No big event this month. They start up next month. We have some smaller events this month.
Okay.
Any other questions? If not, Roger, can you cover Brentwood Park or Mike?
No, I'm here. Okay, Carl, for the rest of y'all, good afternoon again. If you're not familiar with Brentwood Park, it's going to be the park that's located north of the Houston Hart Expressway, just off of North Howard Street, just adjacent to that. And so we've been working on that project now for, unfortunately, several years. We got pulled off for various reasons, various other projects that we had to go to. It's a 100% in-house project. So basically our staff is trying to do all of the renovations for the most part on this project. Several years ago, we started with the sidewalk trails. And so we are in the process now. We are finally back to Brentwood Park, and we're trying to finish up those sidewalks going around towards where the playground is going to be located in the pavilion. Once we get to that point, we'll be working on the parking lot, some drainage areas, and then we'll be working on the pavilion and then the playground, as well as some minor irrigation in and around that playground area. I'm hoping that we can make significant progress with the trail system within the next 2 to 3 months to where we can then start working on those other projects. And hopefully we'll have significant completion by this time next year. Hopefully we'll have a lot of work accomplished there at that site. Are there any questions?
I don't have any questions, Roger, but that's one of the parks that I think has a really good trail system around it.
Yes, you are correct. It has it's very long, kind of somewhat narrow park. There is a disc golf program all throughout that area right now. There are tennis courts and basketball courts right there, pretty much in the center of that park.
Mm-hmm.
We do have portable toilets that'll be set up as well at that site. But yeah, it's a very unique park, but it's just basically a big drainage way all the way through there.
Right.
But certainly it will be used. It is used, and it will be used extensively by that neighborhood. I know when we get through with it.
And it's nice and shady. It's just a really friendly looking park.
Yeah, it's one of those areas that holds a lot of water down in that bottom. So most of the areas really don't require irrigation to sustain a lot of that turf material and even the trees. But hopefully we'll have enough in the budget to be able to at least put some area, some irrigation and irrigated areas around the playground pavilion, and maybe some drip to some of the specimen trees throughout.
Okay, next item, if we're ready to move on. The Middle Concho Park Boat Ramp Project and upcoming other Lake Nasworthy projects. I kind of spoke to this earlier. We on the boat ramp project, and this is Middle Concho Park, as you pass by the entrance gates, it's the ramp and the restrooms that are straight ahead, if you're familiar with that. We've got about $500,000, right at $500,000 from a TPWD grant for that project. We've got it designed out. We got it designed, then we bid it out recently. The bids came in higher than we wanted them to. We did take that to council with some additional funding, some coming from the Lake Nasworthy Projects Fund that I mentioned earlier, and other funds from another source. Council approved that and approved the bids for that. We were finalizing the contract with the contractor and anticipate giving notice to proceed here so they can start the end of this month, if not early next month. Other projects coming up are, as I mentioned, the pier, replacing the pier at Lake Nasworthy, the one by the Nature Center, removing the old one, replacing it with the new one. That should be one of the first projects to begin, other than the boat ramp project I just mentioned. Following that will be some beach work as well as repairs to other boat ramps. We've talked about these different boat ramps the last couple of years with the board, but we finally have the funding to do it. And then there's other vegetation removal and riprap work out there. Debbie, you're in the middle of this too. What else is on our list?
I think you hit most of them, other than maybe a a safe passage from down Knickerbocker Road out to the lake. But I think you hit most of them. Mm-hmm.
Those are moving forward, and like I said, the boat ramp project should start here end of this month, if not early next, and that'll take 90 days. Their contract has 90 days to complete it, so it'll be unavailable during a peak part of the year, but at least we're able to move forward with it. Brent, back to you on the pool camps and tournaments. I know you have some updates there.
Okay, sure. Again, Brent Casey, Recreation Manager. As far as the pool, the municipal pool is scheduled to open July 4th. And then we're going to begin the evening parties or the private parties where they can rent the entire pool. That'll begin July the 6th and go through the first weekend of September. The reason for delaying the opening of the pool is, as you probably know, the city of San Angelo went into a hiring freeze. So when all the COVID started, the lifeguards have to be trained somewhere. So ASU stopped training, and that's where a lot of our kids are trained, or we either train them ourselves here at our pool once we get them on board. So that's been one of the big issues. We do have a pool manager that hopefully she will finish everything today and get them in process tomorrow. We're hoping, if not, then we'll do a special in processing for her next week, and she'll be able to train about half of the lifeguards that we have interviewed and turned in to be hired, which is a total of 22, and I think 11 of those need training. But the pool will only be open from 12 noon to 6 p.m. And normally we do open prior to that, but this year we're going to go just 12 to 6 and then the private parties in the afternoon. And again, the reason for that is because of the training, and the lifeguards would have to have a special certification to be able to teach swim lessons. So July 4th is the scheduled date. It could happen a couple of days prior to that, depending on how fast we can get the people in processed and those that need to be trained up and ready to go. It is just a shallow water certification, as our pool is only 4 feet deep, but we're looking forward to getting the pool open, and we do have all the proper sanitization practices ready to go, the stairwells and everything like that. It's going to be one of the rotations of the lifeguards where they normally rotate. So there's always going to be someone ready there to go. And if someone gets up from one of the chairs, for example, that chair has to be sanitized the second that person gets up to leave the facility before someone else goes and uses it. So it's going to be a constant thing of people watching and learning and adapting and everything else. But we're looking forward to the pool being open. I know a lot of people around San Angelo are, for the number of calls we're getting.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Brent, didn't you say last time that we had a guy that you had there before who was going to possibly be able to train people?
Yes, we did, but his certification expired and he just graduated from ASU and was not willing to come back.
Okay.
So we do have an individual that we kind of stole from 3 different country clubs. She was managing 3 different country clubs in Dallas. So she applied for us over here. She attended training at Goodfellow Air Force Base and wanted to come back over here even for the summer. So we did hire her. And like I said, hopefully she gets to come in and in process tomorrow. If not, then we'll do a special in processing for her and get her on board. But she has all the proper certifications, can train the people to be certified lifeguards and get them ready to go. So she's be a great asset to our team.
Super.
Moving forward with the summer camps have kind of went down a little bit this year because of the COVID-19, obviously. Normally we have 2 separate locations. This year we started out with the plan to only have 30 children in the summer camps, and we moved that up to 40 as everything kind of was releasing and going through the processes of this different stages. The governor was releasing all the different things from the CDC. So currently we are full and have 40 kids registered at a summer camp at Southside Recreation Center. We're not taking field trips due to transportation and some of the other issues with that. But normally we do transportation through SAISD, and they have informed us that they will not be doing any transportation requests with their buses until at least July the 13th. So we'll have to relook at that here in a few more weeks and see if they're going to allow it to happen. It will get quite expensive because they're skipping a seat unless something changes with that. So we will need a number of buses just to move those 40 kids. But I know the kids would love to get out and take the field trip. So we'll see what we can do with that. But we have divided them up into 4 different groups of 10. And it seems to be working well. Again, the sanitization and everything is definitely a task that we have to stay on all the time, because when one group leaves, everything has to be sanitized before the next group comes in. But it is working. It is working well. We have some great staff over there that we brought on for the summer. Our coordinator over there is doing a great job, Christina, and she's worked for us the past couple of years at summer camp. So it's a great thing to have her back. And between the kids in the newly AC gym and the other rooms over at Southside Recreation Center and then the park out back, we are making it happen and making sure everyone's having a fun, safe time. So it's good to have the kids back in there. The last thing that he has on there from my list would be the tournaments coming up. We do have some rentals coming up. June the 21st and 20th and 21st would be a USSSA fast pitch tournament for females, and it is a rental. So we're expecting about 30 teams for that, and probably about 12 of those will be from in town. So not too many from out of town, but we do have a few teams coming, which is a good thing. July the 4th, we have another adult softball rental at the complex, and we're waiting to hear how many teams they have for that one and if it still makes. July 25th and 26th, we have SACFA Girls Midnight Madness Tournament, which is normally about 60 or 70 teams, if I'm not mistaken. So they rent the fields from us and do their tournament out there, which is a great thing. We should have teams coming from out of town for that. Our big one that we're really excited about, which council did approve us to use some of the funds from one of the accounts for the complex to get people to come in, and we have been working with USSSA Youth Baseball, who comes in. They currently do 4 or 5 tournaments here per year, but they're ready to go for the July 11th and 12th. And I didn't even look today. I didn't even think about it, to be honest with you. But when I looked on Friday, we still have close to a month, a little less than a month, but we had 50 something teams registered as of Friday. So I didn't even check it out this weekend or today, but we're expecting a great number for that. And a great economic impact, and looking for a great tournament for that weekend. So. And as I stated, league play does begin again tonight at the complex. Of course, we have different things going on, but it is adult softball tonight and tomorrow night, and we have them coming in different areas, leaving in different areas, different times, starting on different fields. Lots of different things, changing out the balls and sanitizing the equipment in between the games, and no handshakes, all the normal stuff that you read about all the sports teams doing for this type of period. But looking forward to getting everybody back out there and getting going. And we've had a lot of great comments already, and people are ready to go and excited. So hopefully they social distance and don't give us too many issues, and everyone stays healthy and we have a great time.
Super.
Any questions on Brent's? Okay, the last one's the Twin Buttes Transportation Management Plan and Trail System and Grant. If you picture the Twin Buttes area, it's land owned by the Bureau of Reclamation. It's leased to the city for basically water collection, and all the lands that are available out there are open to the public. Basically 3 years ago, we went into a 3-way partnership with the Bureau and TPWD, particularly the game warden section. And that has really worked out well. We've made a lot of progress in helping to better monitor those lands. They're now under the Texas Public Hunting Program. And so you must have a permit to go out there, either a general use permit or a full use permit, which allows for hunting as well as general use. It's really helped a lot to help monitor the use of those properties. One thing that we've been working on long term, as you know, a lot of folks go out there to off-road, to ride motorcycles, all-terrain vehicles. That technically was illegal on federal land without permission. And so we've been working long-term to rectify that situation. And so working with the Bureau of Reclamation and TPWD, particularly the Bureau, the Bureau got approved the Transportation Management Plan, which makes it legal and identifies a system of trails for different uses. And so with that plan, I submitted a grant with TPWD for some funds to help better develop those trails, put in some trailheads and trail marking system. And so that got funded. The funding begins in the fall of 21. So we're still a year out, but it's just a major step forward to be able to better manage those properties out there. And now that the trails have been approved, we've got some funding to develop the trails. It's going to be a great recreational asset for the community.
Yes, that's awesome.
That's all our updates on that. We're ready to move
Carl,
forward.
where is that located specifically? Is that off of 67 going west?
The Twin Buttes?
Yes.
It's all that land, all the land past the dam.
Oh, it'd be on both sides of the.
Yeah, 67 and what road is that?
Knickerbocker.
I guess so.
It's on both sides of the lake then.
Yes, it's the main North Pool, South Pool. It's our biggest undeveloped. It's our biggest chunk of undeveloped parkland. It's not ours. We leased it from the Bureau. It's not really developed.
But the off-road section is on the north side of the North Pool, if I'm correct.
That's correct.
That's off of 67 West.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
And you can access it also from Lake Nasworthy, well, to the right of the dam, or the spillway anyway, or the, whatever they call that. Yeah.
The bowl.
Right.
Yeah. And
that's
actually,
super.
if you want, I could send y'all a link to download that plan if you're interested. I'll send it to you anyhow. You can download it if you want.
Good.
Okay, so Carl, as I understand it, the land at Twin Buttes, you have to get a pass from the state, like you
Yes.
get a fishing pass to
Yes.
use any of the recreational land.
That's correct. You can get it from the game warden office, and there's different places in town. Sporting goods stores where you can get it.
Or I'm online as well.
Okay.
The general use one is fairly inexpensive.
It was around $18 if I remember correctly. The public hunting full one is like 48, I think.
That's for a whole year.
But yeah, and it works at any, not just at Twin Buttes. It'll work at any state park facility.
That's a good point. Thank you.
All right.
All right. Just to end up the meeting, we got to go to the opening here pretty soon. Carl Ray Johnson.
We have to wait. Oh, yes.
You're the main speaker.
But Debbie wanted to add something to next meeting.
To the agenda. Yeah. Yes. Via the Lake Nasworthy Homeowner Association, we've had some safety concerns out on the lake. And I'm not sure it's under the recreation umbrella, but because it's a recreational lake, I guess it would be. And that is involving signage out there and buoys. So I guess the item would be safety concerns at Lake Nasworthy regarding signage and buoys.
Okay. I wrote it down. We can add that. It does generally fall under operations, lake operations, but I can have them come speak on the item.
That'd be great. Oh, also, I just wanted to make a quick announcement. We are having the 4th of July fireworks at Lake Nasworthy. So it's a great thing. Pass the word.
Any other future items?
I make a motion for the end of this meeting.
We are gonna, looks like we are gonna have our June 2025 meeting next week. So we'll try to have the item that Debbie asked for and review of take action on the master plan. We'll at least have those two items.
Carl, I'm going to be out of town. I will try and have Wi-Fi where I am, but no guarantee.
Okay. And we are going to be doing Zoom. I believe the governor's order extended 30 days for public meetings. So that means our next meeting will be on Zoom.
I'm in Ozona at the ranch and I'm on. So you can do it.
All right. Laura, we have a motion to end the meeting.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a second. So our meeting is over and we will see everybody again, Zoom on June 25th.
Super.
All right, thank you
Thank you
all.
all.
Thanks.
I gotta end the live stream.
All right.